The vast council chamber hummed with quiet tension as representatives from across the galaxy gathered around the central projection. Admiral June tapped her control panel, bringing a three-dimensional star map to life. A single red dot blinked steadily, moving through the outer reaches of council space. "This is the human vessel," she explained, her voice calm but concerned. "It entered our monitoring zone 3 days ago and continues on a direct course to the council hub." Ta, the Meridian ambassador with skin like polished crystal, leaned forward. "Just one ship. Are they sending an assassin? A scout?" "Neither, it seems," replied June. "The vessel is massive, larger than anything in our defense fleet. Initial scans suggest it contains significant life signs." The council chamber filled with whispers. Most species remembered their own first contact with the galactic community. They had sent fleets, not for war, but for basic security. No civilization had ever approached with a single vessel. "Perhaps their technology is limited," suggested Bin, his serpent-like body coiling in contemplation. "Many young races can only build one large ship at a time." Minje, the oldest member of the council, shook his head slowly. His species had been spacefaring for over 2,000 years, and he had personally witnessed first contact with 3 different civilizations. "Our intelligence on Earth suggests otherwise," he said. "Humans have mastered spaceflight within their own system. They have built stations, lunar outposts, and Martian colonies. They could have sent multiple ships if they wished." "Then why didn't they?" asked Ta. No one had an answer. The council met daily as the human ship continued its approach. Debates grew heated. Some members suggested aggressive action, to send warships as a show of strength. Others advised caution. Humans were an unknown factor. "We have intercepted their transmissions for decades," said June during one particularly tense session. "They are violent among themselves, yes, but also capable of remarkable cooperation. Their entertainment broadcasts suggest both great cruelty and great compassion." "Typical of young species," Minji noted. "They contain multitudes." After much debate, the council decided to send a greeting party. 5 ships representing the major powers of the alliance. They would meet the humans at the edge of the central systems, offering welcome while displaying just enough military presence to discourage any foolish actions. On the day of the scheduled meeting, excitement filled the monitoring center. Council members crowded around displays, eager for their first real look at the mysterious human vessel. "The human ship will exit faster than light travel in approximately 5 minutes, announced a technician. June stood rigid, her 4 arms crossed in what her species considered a formal posture. "Are our vessels in position?" "Yes, Admiral. The greeting fleet is standing by." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then alarms began to sound. "Energy spike," called the technician. "The human vessel is emerging now." The main screen flickered as space itself seemed to bend. A flash of light. And then silence fell across the monitoring center. The human ship had arrived, and it defied all expectations. It wasn't merely large, it was colossal. The vessel dwarfed the council greeting ships, making them look like toys before a mountain. "Magnify," whispered Minja. The image zoomed in, revealing details of the human ship. It wasn't a traditional design. Unlike the sleek council vessels, this craft was composed of massive rotating sections connected to a central spine. Lights glittered across its surface, not hundreds or thousands, but millions of them, suggesting windows, habitation areas, and active systems throughout the structure. It's a city," said Ta. "No, it's larger. It's an entire world," finished Bin. "They've sent a world." Initial scans confirmed their astonishment. The vessel, soon identified by human transmissions as Terra Nova, stretched nearly 60 kilometers from end to end. The rotating sections created Earth-like gravity for its inhabitants. Further scans detected vast interior spaces containing not just living quarters but parks, lakes, agricultural zones, and manufacturing facilities. Population estimate, asked June, her voice barely audible. A technician worked frantically at his console. Preliminary scans suggest 2 million life forms, Admiral. The council representatives exchanged shocked glances. 2 million humans traveling together in a single vessel. It explained everything. Why they had sent just one ship. This wasn't a ship at all. It was an Ark. "They're hailing us," announced the communications officer. The main screen shifted to show a human face. The man appeared middle-aged by human standards, with dark hair and calm eyes. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," he said in perfect galactic standard, surprising everyone present. "I am Doyan, appointed speaker for humanity. The vessel Terra Nova comes in peace and friendship. We seek dialogue and understanding between our peoples." Minhya stepped forward as the designated council representative. "We welcome you, Speaker Doyan. Your arrival is unexpected in its form. May I ask why humans chose to send a single vessel rather than a fleet?" The human smiled slightly. "We do not divide our strength, Counselor. It is not our way. Terra Nova carries not just representatives of Earth, but a true cross-section of our civilization. We wished you to see us as we truly are." The conversation continued, formal and careful on both sides. Initial contact protocols were established and arrangements made for face-to-face meetings. Throughout it all, the council members couldn't hide their fascination with the human approach. Later, in private chambers, the inner council gathered to discuss this startling development. "They risked everything," said Tai, still disbelieving. "One catastrophic failure would have ended their entire mission." "More than the mission," replied Ben. "From what we've learned, Terra Nova carries significant portions of their art, culture, scientific knowledge, and biological diversity. A true loss would have been devastating to their civilization." Admiral Jun displayed new scans of the massive vessel. "Initial security assessments are concerning. A ship that size could contain weapons systems beyond our defensive capabilities. Or it could be exactly what it appears to be," said Minje thoughtfully. "A genuine effort at peaceful contact." "But why take such a risk?" asked Ta. "Why send just one ship?" Minje gazed at the image of Terra Nova floating above the table. "Perhaps that is the first thing we must understand about humans," he said quietly. "They think differently than we do. While we spread our efforts to minimize risk, they focus theirs to maximize impact." The aging counselor stood and moved closer to the hologram, studying the massive human vessel with new respect. "They wish to impress us," he continued, "and they have certainly succeeded. The question now is what else they are capable of, and what they truly want from this encounter." The room fell silent as they all contemplated the human ship glowing in the projection. None of them could have predicted this approach. None of them could say what would happen next. The only certainty was that everything had changed the moment humanity arrived. In just one ship. 3 days after first contact, a small shuttle departed from Terra Nova, carrying the first human delegation to the Galactic Council station. The shuttle itself impressed the alien observers, elegant and clearly advanced, yet tiny compared to its mothership. When the airlock doors opened, Speaker Doyan led 5 other humans into the reception area. They wore simple blue uniforms without rank insignia or decorations. This surprised the council representatives, who had expected elaborate diplomatic dress. "Welcome to Unity Station," said Minje, bowing slightly. "We are honored by your presence." Doyan returned the gesture. "The honor is ours, Counselor. Humanity has dreamed of this moment for centuries." The formal reception proceeded according to protocol, but everyone present felt the underlying tension. Questions about Terra Nova remained unanswered. The humans had been polite but vague in their communications, focusing on cultural exchange rather than technical specifications. Later that day, the real discussions began in the council's private chamber. "We appreciate your welcome," said Doyan, seated at the large circular table. "But we understand your concerns. A vessel of Terra Nova's size arriving unexpectedly would worry any civilization. Then perhaps you could ease those concerns, suggested Admiral Jun. Your ship is unlike anything in our records. Do-hyun nodded. Of course. With your permission, I'll show you Terra Nova as it truly is. He placed a small device on the table. It projected a detailed hologram of the massive human ship, then zoomed in to show its interior. The council members leaned forward, captivated by what they saw. Terra Nova wasn't merely a vessel, it was a complete ecosystem. The rotating sections contained vast open spaces with forests, lakes, and agricultural zones. Cities nestled within these landscapes, their architecture blending with the natural elements. Terra Nova houses 2 million humans, explained Do-hyun. But it also contains samples of Earth's biodiversity, 15,000 animal species, 30,000 plant species, and millions of microorganisms. You brought your entire ecosystem? Asked Vin, astonished. A representative portion, Do-hyun corrected. Earth remains our homeworld. Terra Nova is our embassy to the stars. The hologram shifted to show manufacturing centers, hydroponic farms, and energy production systems. The ship is self-sufficient, continued Do-hyun. It can sustain its population indefinitely without external resources, though we prefer to trade when possible. And its defensive capabilities? Asked Jun directly. Do-hyun smiled slightly. Sufficient for our needs, Admiral. We come in peace, but we are not defenseless. As the presentation continued, the council representatives began to understand the human approach. Terra Nova wasn't just big for the sake of intimidation. Its size was necessary for its function. It contained everything humans needed not just to survive, but to thrive. May I ask a personal question? Said Tai after the technical briefing finished. Of course, replied Do-hyun. Don't you find it frightening to place so much of your civilization in one vessel? The human considered this. Our history is filled with explorers who set sail in single ships, carrying their hopes with them. Terra Nova continues that tradition, just on a larger scale. The meeting adjourned, but the discussions continued throughout the station. Council species debated the implications of the human approach. Some found it fascinating, others disturbing. 2 days later, the council granted permission for a small delegation to visit Terra Nova itself. Min-jae, Ji-yu, and Bin were selected to represent the council, with Admiral Jun accompanying them for security assessment. The human shuttle approached Terra Nova, giving the visitors their first close view of the vessel. Up close, its size became even more apparent. The main habitat rings rotated slowly, creating gravity. The central spine stretched for kilometers, containing docking bays, sensor arrays, and what appeared to be research facilities. The outer hull is composed of layered ceramics and metal alloys, explained Yoonji, the human engineer guiding their tour. But that's just the shell. The real marvel is inside. Their shuttle entered a massive docking bay where dozens of smaller craft were maintained. Workers moved about their tasks, occasionally glancing at the alien visitors, but otherwise continuing their routines. How many ships can Terra Nova deploy? Asked Jun, trying to keep her tone casual. Currently, we have 200 shuttles like the one you arrived in, 50 larger transport vessels, and about 300 specialized craft for research and resource gathering. Yoonji answered honestly. None are warships, though all can be defended if necessary. The tour continued through the habitat rings. The visitors stood in awe as they entered what appeared to be an earth forest, extending seemingly forever around the curve of the ring. A stream flowed nearby, and birds called from the trees. This is one of our 4 main biome zones, said Yoonji. We rotate crops in the agricultural sections, but these preservation areas remain constant, maintaining Earth's ecosystems. They visited a small city next, where humans went about their daily lives. Children played in parks, merchants sold goods in an open market, and artists displayed their work in public squares. Everyone aboard Terra Nova has multiple roles, explained Yoonji. I'm an engineer, but I also teach and help with hydroponics. We all contribute to the community. And leadership? Asked Minja. Who governs this vessel? We have a council of our own, said Yunji. Representatives from each section, with specialized departments for different functions. Captain Sunwoo has final authority for ship operations, but community decisions are made collectively. As they toured manufacturing centers, Jiu noticed something unusual. These facilities seem capable of producing almost anything, from microchips to structural components. Yunji nodded. That's correct. Terra Nova was designed to be completely self-sufficient. We can manufacture everything we need, from the simplest tool to the most complex computer system, including weapons, asked Jun directly. The engineer didn't hesitate. If necessary, yes, but that's not our purpose here. By the time they returned to the shuttle bay, the council representatives had a new understanding of Terra Nova. It wasn't just a ship or even a colony vessel. It was humanity's statement to the galaxy. On the return journey, the delegation remained mostly silent, processing what they had seen. They've committed everything to this approach, Minja finally said. Their technology, their people, their very way of life, all focused on a single purpose. But what is that purpose? Asked Jun. Peaceful contact, as they claim? Or something else? Bin's serpentine form shifted thoughtfully. Perhaps the greatest insight today was cultural, not technical. Humans build differently than we do, not out of arrogance, but because they see the universe differently. They don't spread their resources for safety, agreed Jiu. They concentrate them for impact. As their shuttle approached the council station, Terra Nova loomed in the background. Massive, magnificent, and still mysterious. The humans had shown much but revealed little about their true intentions. One thing was clear. They had arrived in the galactic community not as supplicants but as equals, and their single ship had made that statement more powerfully than any fleet could have. The mood in the council chamber had shifted dramatically in the week since the tour of Terra Nova. Where curiosity had once dominated, now suspicion grew. Standing at the center of the debate was Huck, the Teresian representative, his gray skin flushed with emotion as he addressed the gathered delegates. We have been naive, Huck declared, pounding his fist on the podium. This vessel, this Terra Nova, is not simply a marvel of engineering. It is a potential threat to the stability of our entire region. Minja sighed. The Teresians had always been among the more aggressive council species, quick to see threats where others saw opportunities. The humans have been transparent in their communications, Minja countered. They have welcomed our delegations and shared their cultural knowledge freely. Have they? Huck challenged. They've shown us parks and schools and happy citizens, but what of their true capabilities? That vessel could deploy an invasion force to any world in our alliance within days. The chamber erupted in conflicting voices. Some counselors sided with Huck's caution, while others defended the human approach. Admiral June stood silently, her face unreadable as the debate raged. We should demand inspections of their secured areas, suggested one representative. We should establish defensive positions around Terra Nova, urged another. Jiu, who had been part of the delegation to the human ship, finally spoke up. We risk damaging a potentially valuable relationship based on fear rather than evidence. The humans have given us no reason to distrust them. Yet, added Huck darkly. After hours of heated discussion, the council remained divided. No formal action would be taken, but unofficially, surveillance of Terra Nova would increase. Admiral June was instructed to maintain heightened alert status for the defense fleet. What none of them realized was that the Teresian delegation had already taken matters into their own hands. 3 days later, Speaker Doyon requested an emergency meeting with the council. His typically calm demeanor had hardened into something more severe. Approximately 6 hours ago, Terra Nova detected unauthorized entry attempts at multiple access points, he stated without preamble. The intruders used stealth technology and carried scanning equipment clearly designed to penetrate our secure systems. The council chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Tuek, whose expression remained defiantly unapologetic. "What happened to these intruders?" asked Minja carefully. "They were detected, contained, and are being returned to you now," replied Dohyun. A small screen activated, showing a shuttle departing from Terra Nova. "They are unharmed but sedated for their own safety." Kuk leaned forward. "You cannot blame us for seeking assurance that your vessel poses no threat. Your refusal to allow full inspection has only heightened our concerns." "We have hidden nothing of consequence," Dohyun responded, his voice level but firm. "But like any sovereign entity, we maintain the right to privacy in certain matters." "A right you exercised quite effectively, it seems," observed Admiral June. "Your security systems neutralized trained Parisian operatives without casualties. Most impressive." "We prefer peaceful relations," said Dohyun, "but Terra Nova will defend itself when necessary." The meeting ended with tensions higher than ever. As the council members departed, Minji approached Jun privately. "The Teresians acted foolishly," he whispered. "They've provoked the humans unnecessarily." "Perhaps," Jun replied. "But they've also confirmed something important. The humans possess defensive capabilities well beyond what they've acknowledged to us." The next morning, alarms blared throughout the council station. On the main observation deck, representatives gathered to witness an unexpected development. Terra Nova was changing. Sections of the massive hull were opening like flowers blooming in spring. From within these openings emerged hundreds of smaller vessels, not the shuttles they had seen before, but larger craft of various designs. "What are they doing?" demanded Hook. "Is this an attack?" Admiral June studied the tactical displays, her expression grave. "Not an attack. At least, not yet. They're deploying their fleet." Within hours, over 500 vessels of various sizes had emerged from Terra Nova. They formed a protective formation around the mothership, then began organized maneuvers that demonstrated both their capabilities and their coordination. "They had these ships hidden inside all along," said Tai, watching the display with a mixture of awe and concern. "Not hidden," corrected Bin. "Contained. Terra Nova isn't just a habitat, it's a carrier." An emergency council session was called immediately. Speaker Dohyun appeared via hologram, his expression solemn but resolved. "I regret that recent events have necessitated this demonstration," he began. "Terra Nova is, as you now see, more than capable of defending itself. These vessels are primarily designed for resource gathering, construction, and exploration, but they can be repurposed if needed." "This display feels like a threat, Speaker," said Cook accusingly. "It is a response to one," Dohyun replied firmly. "The attempted infiltration of our vessel crossed a line. We preferred to show our capabilities openly rather than have them discovered through espionage." The standoff continued for days. Terra Nova's smaller ships maintained their protective formation while continuing to perform what appeared to be routine operations, gathering material from nearby asteroid fields, conducting scans of the surrounding space, and constructing small outposts at strategic points. Council species grew increasingly alarmed. Some began to move their own defensive fleets closer to the central systems. Others withdrew their representatives entirely, fearing conflict. In a private meeting room, the inner council gathered to discuss their options. "We cannot allow this situation to escalate further," said Minja. "Neither side will benefit from conflict." "Then the humans must stand down their fleet," insisted Hook. "Their show of force is provocative." "And your infiltration attempt wasn't," countered Jiu. "We pushed them to this position." Admiral Jun displayed tactical assessments on the main screen. Based on their demonstrated capabilities, direct confrontation would be inadvisable. Their technology appears to match or exceed our own in several key areas. "Then what do you suggest?" asked Cook bitterly. "That we simply accept a potential invasion force in our midst." "I suggest we talk," said Minja simply, "not as suspicious rivals, but as potential allies. The humans came here seeking contact, not conquest. Perhaps we should take them at their word until proven otherwise. After heated debate, the Council agreed to send a high-level delegation to Terra Nova, not for inspection, but for genuine dialogue. They would address concerns directly and seek to diffuse tensions before they spiral beyond control. As the Council prepared their diplomatic mission, Terra Nova's fleet continued its operations. From the observation deck, Minji watched the smaller vessels moving with purpose around their massive mothership. The humans had revealed a new aspect of their approach to space, not just one great vessel, but hundreds of smaller ones working in concert, all emerging from within the greater whole. They contain multitudes, he murmured, remembering his earlier assessment of humanity. In more ways than one. Captain Sunwoo stood alone in Terra Nova's central observation dome, watching the distant lights of the Council Defense Fleet. The massive transparent ceiling arched overhead, revealing the vast starfield beyond. After weeks of diplomatic tension, the situation had reached a critical point. "Captain," said a quiet voice behind her. Sunwoo turned to see Jinwoo, her chief diplomatic officer, entering the dome. His normally relaxed face showed signs of strain. "The Council has sent another message," he reported. "They're requesting a complete stand-down of our external vessels. Admiral Jun has moved additional warships into the outer perimeter." Sunwoo nodded but remained silent, turning back to the stars. In the distance, the tiny points of light representing Council ships seemed to multiply daily. "Your orders, Captain," prompted Jinwoo. "No change for now," she replied. "Maintain current deployments but ensure all crews understand. Defensive measures only. No one fires unless fired upon." After Jinwoo left, Sunwoo closed her eyes. Her mind drifted back to Earth, to the decisions that had brought humanity to this precarious moment. 20 years earlier, the discovery of practical faster-than-light travel had transformed human civilization overnight. Suddenly, the stars were within reach. The question wasn't whether humanity would venture outward, but how. Two competing approaches had emerged. The fleet theory advocated building many smaller ships, faster, more maneuverable, distributed across multiple targets. The arc theory proposed concentrating resources into a single, self-sufficient vessel that could represent humanity in its entirety. Sunwoo remembered the global debates, the passionate arguments from both sides. She had been a young officer then, watching as humanity made perhaps its most important decision. "We do not divide our strength," argued the arc proponents. "Throughout human history, unity has been our greatest asset. We do not risk everything on a single point of failure," countered the fleet supporters. "Nature itself teaches us the value of diversity and distribution." In the end, after years of debate, the arc theory had prevailed. Not just because of the philosophical argument, but because of the practical reality. Humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization should represent Earth in its entirety, not just fragments. Construction of Terra Nova had begun immediately, a project unlike anything humans had ever attempted. Not just a ship but a world in miniature, carrying everything needed to establish humanity among the stars. "Captain," a new voice broke into Sunwoo's memories. She turned to see Eunji, Terra Nova's chief engineer, entering the dome with a data tablet in hand. "I've completed the assessment you requested," Eunji said, offering the tablet. "If the Council forces move against us, these are our options." Sunwoo reviewed the information, her expression grave. "Emergence protocol. You believe that's necessary." "It may be our best option," Eunji replied. Terra Nova was always designed with this possibility in mind. If diplomacy fails, "It hasn't failed yet," Sunwoo interrupted firmly. "Speaker Doyun is still in discussions with the Council. They're sending another delegation tomorrow." Eunji nodded but seemed unconvinced. "The Teresians are pushing for more aggressive measures. Our intelligence suggests they're gathering support among the other species. Then we'll need to be ready for all possibilities," Sunwoo conceded. "Begin preparation for emergence, but quietly. I don't want to alarm our people or provoke the Council further." After Eunji departed, Sunwoo remained in the observation dome. Below her feet, 2 million humans went about their lives within Terra Nova's vast interior. Children attended schools. Farmers tended crops in the agricultural rings. Artists created works that captured humanity's journey among the stars. None of them had expected first contact to be easy, but few had anticipated this level of suspicion. Perhaps humanity's approach, concentrating their presence in a single magnificent vessel, had been more intimidating than impressive. The captain's wristcom chimed, interrupting her thoughts. "Captain, this is medical. Dr. Nam would like to see you." Intrigued, Sunwoo made her way to the medical center. Dr. Nam, Terra Nova's chief medical officer, was waiting in her office, a rare smile on her normally serious face. "What's so important it couldn't wait until morning?" asked Sunwoo. In answer, Dr. Nam led her through the medical center to the maternity ward. Through a window, Sunwoo could see a new mother holding a tiny infant, the father standing proudly beside them. "Our first baby born in council space," explained Dr. Nam. "A healthy girl, 3.2 kilograms. The parents have named her Nova." Despite her concerns, Sunwoo smiled. "A fitting name." "I thought you should know," continued the doctor. "Whatever happens with the council, life continues. This child is the first human to be born among the stars, not just of Earth, but truly of space itself." Sunwoo nodded thoughtfully. "Make sure the family has everything they need, and enter the birth in the official record. Our first true space citizen deserves recognition." Later that evening, Sunwoo called a meeting of Terra Nova's senior staff. Gathered around the conference table were the heads of each major department: engineering, medical, security, agriculture, education, and diplomacy. "The situation is growing more tense," she began without preamble. "Council ships continue to gather, and the Teresians are pushing for direct action against us." "They fear what they don't understand," said the education director. "We represent something new, a unified approach rather than their factional one." "Fear often leads to aggression," noted the security chief. "Our defensive systems are ready, but engaging with the council fleet would be catastrophic for both sides." Jinwoo, the diplomatic officer, consulted his notes. Speaker Do-Yun reports that several council species still favor peaceful resolution. The elder, Minjae, has been particularly supportive. "Then there's still hope for diplomacy," said Sunwoo. "But we must be prepared for all outcomes. Engineer Yunji has completed preparations for emergence protocol." A hushed murmur spread around the table. Everyone aboard Terra Nova knew what emergence meant. It was the contingency plan, the last resort if peaceful contact failed. "Is that truly necessary?" asked the agricultural director, her face pale. "Emergence was intended for establishing a permanent colony, not as a defensive measure." "It may serve both purposes," replied Sunwoo. "If the council sees us as a threat because we're mobile, perhaps becoming stationary will ease their concerns." The meeting continued late into the night, with each department head reporting readiness status and discussing potential scenarios. Through it all, Sunwoo remained focused on a single goal: protecting her people while maintaining humanity's dignity in its first contact with alien civilization. As the meeting concluded, she looked at each of her officers in turn. "Whatever happens in the coming days, remember why we came here. Not to conquer, not to intimidate, but to join a larger community of intelligent beings. Terra Nova carries humanity's greatest achievement, our ability to unite when it matters most." The officers nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of their responsibility. 2 million lives depended on their decisions, along with humanity's future among the stars. Back in her private quarters, Sunwoo studied the final contingency plans. On her display, the schematics of Terra Nova slowly transformed, showing the massive vessel's true nature, not just a ship, but the seed of something far greater. If diplomacy failed, if the council forced their hand, Terra Nova would reveal its ultimate purpose in a way that no one, human or alien, could possibly ignore. Dawn broke artificially within Terra Nova's habitat rings as the massive vessel faced its most critical day. The ship's external sensors detected the arrival of more Council warships during the night. Over 40 vessels now surrounded Terra Nova in an unmistakable blockade formation. On the bridge, Captain Sunwoo received the latest intelligence with a calm that belied her inner tension. The Council session lasted through the night, reported Jinwoo. Speaker Doyun says the vote was close, but the hardliners prevailed. They're demanding our immediate departure from Council space. And if we refuse? Asked Sunwoo, though she already knew the answer. They didn't specify, but the fleet deployment speaks for itself. Admiral Jun's flagship had positioned itself at the head of the formation. A direct communication link opened, and her image appeared on Terra Nova's main display. Captain Sunwoo, said Jun formally, the Galactic Council has reached its decision. Your vessel must leave Council territory within 12 standard hours. A travel corridor has been established for your departure. Sunwoo stood straight, her voice steady. Admiral, we came in peace seeking dialogue. We have committed no hostile act against the Council or its members. Your very presence is considered destabilizing, replied Jun. The Council has spoken. 12 hours, Captain. The communication ended abruptly. Sunwoo turned to her officers, who awaited her command with tense expressions. Inform Speaker Doyun we need more time, she ordered. Then begin the emergence protocol. Throughout Terra Nova, carefully rehearsed procedures initiated. Citizens moved to designated safety areas. Essential personnel took emergency stations. The massive ship's internal structure began subtle, preparatory shifts that would soon become much more dramatic. On the Council station, an emergency session continued. Min-jae argued passionately against military action, but found himself increasingly isolated. The humans have shown no aggression, he insisted. This ultimatum risks turning a potential ally into an enemy. Their continued deployment of external vessels after our request to stand down was itself aggressive, countered Hyuk. We cannot allow such a potentially dangerous presence in our space. What if they refuse to leave? Asked Vin. Admiral Jun's answer was blunt. Then we will escort them out. Suddenly, a junior officer burst into the chamber. Counselors, you need to see this immediately. The main display activated, showing Terra Nova. The human vessel was changing. Across its vast hull, sections began to separate and unfold. The rotating habitat rings slowed their spin, locking into new positions. Massive panels that had appeared to be simple hull plating split apart, revealing complex structures beneath. What are they doing? Demanded Hyuk. Is this some kind of attack? No weapons signatures detected, reported a tactical officer. But energy readings are off the scale. On Terra Nova's bridge, Sunwoo watched as the ship underwent its remarkable transformation. This was what Terra Nova had been designed for from the beginning. Its ultimate purpose now revealed to the watching galaxy. All sections report transformation proceeding as planned, said Yoonji. Minimal stress on primary structures. Power distribution stable. And our people? Asked Sunwoo. Safe in designated areas. Some anxiety reports, but no panic. The process continued for hours. The Council fleet maintained its position, weapons ready but holding fire as they witnessed the unprecedented spectacle. Terra Nova was no longer recognizable as a ship. Its components had rearranged themselves into something entirely different, a self-contained habitat structure. Where once there had been a vessel capable of faster-than-light travel, now there stood what could only be described as a small artificial world. The habitat rings had expanded outward, creating vast enclosed spaces. Solar collection arrays extended like petals toward the nearest star. Docking facilities remained accessible, but the propulsion systems had reconfigured into permanent power generation stations. Emergence complete, reported Yoonji finally. All systems functioning within parameters. Open a channel to the Council fleet, ordered Sunwoo. Admiral Jun's face appeared on screen, her expression a mixture of shock and caution. Admiral, began Sunwoo. As you can see, Terra Nova has completed its transformation. We are no longer a mobile vessel but a permanent habitat. We cannot leave as ordered because we no longer have that capability. What is the meaning of this? Demanded June. Terra Nova was always designed with dual purpose, explained Sunwoo, to carry humanity to the stars, and then to establish a permanent presence where appropriate. We've chosen this location for our home. The Admiral seemed momentarily speechless. This development had clearly not been anticipated in any Council strategy session. This changes nothing, she finally said. The Council ordered your departure, not your expansion. I request an emergency Council session, replied Sunwoo firmly. Now that our true nature is revealed, perhaps we can begin authentic dialogue. Hours later, a delegation from the Council arrived at Terra Nova's main docking bay. Minjae led the group, which included representatives from 7 major species. Notably absent was Fuck of the Teresians, who had refused to participate. Captain Sunwoo greeted them personally. "Welcome to New Earth," she said, using Terra Nova's official colony designation for the first time. "Thank you for coming." She led them through the transformed habitat. What had been impressive as a vessel was now astonishing as a permanent structure. The expanded living spaces could now support not just the current population but growth for generations to come. Manufacturing centers had reconfigured to process local resources rather than stored materials. Most striking were the vast transparent domes that had emerged from within the structure. Beneath these domes stretched parks, forests, and lakes, Earth's ecosystems preserved among the stars. "This was your plan all along?" asked Minja as they stood beneath one such dome, looking out at both the artificial landscape within and the stars beyond. "One of 2 possible outcomes," Sunwoo acknowledged. "We hoped for peaceful contact and exchange, but we prepared for the possibility that we might need to establish ourselves more definitively." "A bold approach," observed Bin. "Though I understand now why you came in a single vessel. This transformation would not have been possible with a fleet." "We do not divide our strength," repeated Sunwoo, echoing humanity's guiding philosophy. "In unity, we find our greatest potential." The Council delegation continued their tour, asking pointed questions about resources, population growth, and defense capabilities. Sunwoo answered honestly, emphasizing New Earth's desire for peaceful coexistence and trade. 3 days later, the Council reconvened. After intense debate, a compromise was reached. New Earth would be granted provisional status, not full Council membership, but recognition as a sovereign entity within Council space. In exchange, humans would share certain technologies and accept limitations on their defensive capabilities. When the decision was announced, celebrations erupted throughout New Earth. After weeks of tension, the prospect of peace brought immense relief.